When we are talking about low self esteem, that's a spiritual brokenness of a traumatic experience that happened to you when you were young. You heard me say it all the time. Sometimes the adult 35-year-old you is still broken from a 9-year-old traumatic experience that happened to you. So today, many people are struggling with low self esteem because of unresolved trauma that has happened into our lives. It's a concern because when your spirit is broken and your value about yourself is low, you'd be surprised what you'll find yourself doing. Good day, everybody, all of our supporters. You're back at the Unbreakable Show with Dr. Holt. Again, this is your boy, Dr. Holt, the trauma doctor. The trauma doctor is in the building on today. And you're watching again the Unbreakable Show. And listen, we believe that with Unbreakable, you're not built to break. Trauma sometimes may come into our lives. It may bruise us, it may beat us, and sometimes it may even feel like it has broken us. But yet you can mend the broken pieces back together and become an unbreakable individual. So we're back. We're excited. We took a nice little break, but we're back and we're excited. We got the producer in the building. Alex is the producer. We are thankful for him and all he does to help us host the Unbreakable Show. So the things that you're seeing on our social media, we want to give him his flowers and say thank you to Alex for all what he has done to help bring my vision to pass. Listen, on the Unbreakable Show, we have those tough, brave discussions talking about the brokenness of trauma, talking about the different types of trauma and what trauma have done to all of us. You hear me say all the time, trauma may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility to heal from your trauma, because if you don't heal from your trauma, certainly we will bleed on people that didn't cut us. But you don't have to keep bleeding and keep on hemorrhaging everybody. At some point, we must heal. And so today I come with another one, another unbreakable episode talking about low self-esteem. That's huge, guys. Low self-esteem. You'd be surprised of how many people suffer from low self-esteem. I know a lot of times you think it's a person that may not be the most physically attractive, or someone that don't have the most sexiest body. Yeah, we immediately go to those individuals that may have excuse me, low self-esteem. But did you not know that sometimes low self-esteem comes from some of the most beautiful, attractive, what we might even say sexiest people on the planet that have low self-esteem? You'd be probably shocked of the people that in today's culture who we look up to as being gorgeous or attractive. We just immediately think that they're confident, and they for sure couldn't have low self-esteem. But let me tell you, you'd be surprised of how many people struggle with low self-esteem. And so today we're going to be talking about low self-esteem, talking about what is that and why people suffer from that, and what are the signs that people may have when it comes to low self-esteem. So let's talk about low self-esteem. So low self-esteem, how we view it, is an individual who have a negative evaluation of themselves. So think about that, a negative evaluation of themselves that characterized by feelings of worthlessness, inadequacy, self-doubt, all those things. They do a self-assessment, and it's negative down to the core, down to the spirit. Okay. That's huge, because when you have a low self-esteem where you negatively self-evaluate yourself, the one, you're going to have a negative self-perception about yourself. Two, you're going to have a lack of confidence. It's going to have a lot to do with your lack of confidence. And then three, There's overemphasis on how you address criticism. These people that have low self esteem, is really difficult to take feedback. And when they get really good feedback, they switch it somehow, and the way they brain fires, they switch it, and they think the person hates them, and they're being attacked, and so there's this victimization part of can't take feedback and opportunities of growth, and they internalize a lot, and so I think this is very important, and you might be one of those ones listening in this episode about having low self-esteem, a low image, low value. People that have low self-esteem have that low energy, low emotional intelligence, to where they don't know how to regulate. They get easily dysregulate, and they do all of these things that's self sabotaging sometimes and self destructing. And a lot of times that just comes from how you view yourself. And why you bring that up, Dr. Holt, I'm glad you asked me, and I'm going to tell you why I'm bringing it up. Because a lot of that goes to unresolved trauma. It goes to unresolved trauma. You heard me say trauma may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility to heal from your trauma, because if you don't, you will continue to bleed on people that didn't cut you. And a lot of times when we have low self esteem and low value about ourselves, it also means it opens the door for risky behaviors. And so we always see that in unresolved traumas of things that has happened to us. Well, let me define trauma. So, according to American Psychological Association, we define trauma as a psychological wound and an emotional injury to the brain. So, when things has happened to us that is a traumatic experience, it's a psychological wound and it's an emotional injury to the brain. Well, when these injuries takes place in our brains, it impacts how brain function takes place. It impacts how you have executive functioning. It impacts your nervous system being hyper aroused, all those things. So a lot of times when we are suffering from low self-esteem, that didn't just happen from for no reason. That came from a traumatic event, a traumatic experience, or some level of a traumatic exposure. And what has happened to you created such a deep injury, it impacted your spirit. There's a brokenness of the spirit. When I teach on trauma, it don't just impact your neurology, your psychology, your physiology, but it also impacts your spirituality, your spirit. And when we are talking about low self esteem, that's a spiritual brokenness of a traumatic experience that happened to you when you were young. You heard me say it all the time. Sometimes the adult 35-year-old you is still broken from a 9-year-old traumatic experience that happened to you. So today, many people are struggling with low self-esteem because of unresolved trauma that has happened into our lives. This is the reason why we see some of the symptoms of what I described. Because of the fact of the emotional injuries and the psychological wounds that has happened into our brain and happened to our mind and happened to our spirit, that we really think low of ourselves. Why is that a concern, Dr. Hope? It's a concern because when your spirit is broken and your value about yourself is low, you'd be surprised what you'll find yourself doing. One of the things, like I said, that's big too is when people have low self esteem. You hear girls say, "I just got to be with a bad boy." It's something about a bad boy that turns me on. I just want this toxic guy in my life. That's really what you're saying. I want this abusive guy. I'm attracted to this gaslighting, abusing bully to be in my life. That's exactly what you're saying. Doesn't that sound really stupid the way how I describe when you say a bad boy? Because when you're a young lady that wants a bad boy, that's exactly what you're saying. You say, I want a criminal. I want somebody that's gonna break in some houses and shoot up a house. I want a gangster. I want a guy that can slap me around every now and then, show me he's a real man. You know how stupid that really sounds when you say I want a bad boy? But let me go a little bit deeper. That's really saying how you really think about yourself. That's really saying The image you see in the mirror is a self-reflection of yourself. There's not one woman that I know that has a high energy, that has a high IQ, that has a high level of emotional intelligence, would dare say she wants an abuser, she wants a gaslighter, toxic, disrespectful, cheating type of person in their life. That's exactly what you're saying when you're attracted to a bad boy. Or a man say, I just want this wow girl. I just want her to just be all over the place. I want her to be open to do any kind of thing. That's really what you're saying is you want a woman with no morals. You want a woman that's going to be a gold digger, that's going to only want what you can give her. What you really saying is you want a woman that's going to gaslight you, that's going to emotionally and verbally abuse you, and this and that. When you say, I just can't help it, man. I just like a wild woman, right? You really is a reflection of who you are. What you really saying is, as a grown man, there's some unresolved trauma, what happened to you as a boy. And your words is talking like an immature boy of what trauma that you didn't resolve happened to you when you were younger. And now you're in adulthood and now you're still addressing some low self-esteem. See, I'm trying to tell y'all that low self-esteem also happens to the elite. It happens to the educated. It happens to the celebrities. It happened to people who we thought as popular and had it all together. And a lot of times they were self-seeking attention by other people because they didn't know how to deal with the deficit of what happened to them when we were younger. And so they always got to have attention. They always got to be the life of the party. And they always got to be in some drama. That's not always the healthiest thing. And a lot of that goes to unresolved trauma because of low self-esteem. So I bet you're going to be looking at this a little different now. When you want toxic people in your life, go back and self-reflect about your self-esteem. If you don't mind having somebody that would cheat on you and disrespect you, but you don't care as long as they're in your space, that's going back to your self-esteem. See, when we are dealing with people and when we are having connections with people and when we're having friendships and relationship with people, believe it or not, just look at the type of person that you are engaged with, and it's going to be a reflection of yourself. As the scripture says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. You become the product of your thoughts. You become the product of your mindset. But if your mindset is dysfunctional, if your mindset have a disorder, if your mindset is depressed, you be surprised the low level of people that can slither in your life. And it has a lot to do about how you feel about yourself. So let me close by saying, let's flip the script. Let's move from disorder to delight, and let's move from dysfunction to discipline and deliverance. Right? Let's think about how do I shift that. Well, number one, you got to start self-reflecting about where you are and why are you attracted to what you're attracted to. I come to tell you today, this is probably gonna bust your mind, but just because you are in love doesn't mean that's still the right person that you're supposed to be with. That's deep. That's deep, right? Because the fact of the matter is, some of us are attracted to toxicity. Some people love drama, and that comes from unresolved trauma. Because you have gotten used to living in an abnormal life, in an abnormal environment. If you keep living in that abnormal environment, the abnormal becomes the normal. And that's the wrong thing you want to be. So you got to start doing self-assessment. So let's look at this. You got to be able to come to terms with where you are. Two, you got to be honest about what has happened to you so you can identify from your trauma and begin to reverse it. Three, you got to have a level of readiness. I was just talking about that on my other show, that I don't care how great your doctor or therapist may be, but you have to have a level of readiness. Four, you got to be able to be accountable. Be accountable about what you have done. and what you have allowed to come into your life. Be accountable and say enough is enough. Be accountable to heal and become the best version of yourself. So the next time that you're coming around people that you may be attracted to, now you got a higher level of discernment. Now you got a higher level of energy and a higher IQ and a higher emotional intelligence to be able to navigate and filter through those different things. And believe it or not, you have to see this to look deeper and say, am what I attracted to is bringing more destruction in my life? Maybe I need to modify my preference of who I should be with, or who I should hang around, or who I should engage with, who I should go into business with, who I want to be in a romantic relationship, who I choose to marry. Perhaps I really need to look at my preferences. When you can look at your preferences, I'm telling you, that's called some growth. Because I know a lot of people, they stake with the same preference for 20 and 30 years, and they be wondering why they have so much pain and brokenness. Sometimes we just need to live, and we also need to learn. Finally, I would say you are a beautiful person, not just physically, but mentally, beautiful emotionally, beautiful spiritually, beautiful intellectually. You are a beautiful person. You can't love until you first discover self love. You got to first discover self-love and learning how to be alone and learning how to discover yourself, pouring back into your cup so that you can be a better version of yourself. Every year you live, you should be a better version of what you was in 2024. When 2026 get here, you should have grown in such a level in the next 12 months. By this time next year, you should be a better level and a better version of yourself than where you were in 2025. Each year you live, the more you pour into the cup, the more you invest in yourself, the better value you look inward about yourself. When you began to fill your soul with value and increase your self-esteem, oh, I'm telling you, there's no other direction you can go but up. So I encourage you, pour back into yourself, invest into yourself. And that might mean you need to be alone for yourself for a season to discover that. Because a lot of times we have too many people in our ears giving us all this bad advice. But let me tell you, if their advice have never worked for them, I guarantee you it's probably not going to work for you. So stay encouraged, pour back into yourself, practice reducing your stress and your relaxation, increase your discernment of allowing people in, and finally set healthy boundaries. And I got a feeling that everything is going to be all right. Take care. This is Dr. Holt, the trauma doctor with the Unbreakable Show. See you soon.